last few years in particular, the Tories have been very mask off about their hatred for normal people. The disdain the Tories have for working class people, in that sense then, has always existed. They've always hated the working class. That's reflected in their laws, the way they run the country whenever they're in power. I have found over the last several years, as the lead of the Tories in Parliament and stuff has grown, as well as public support for some reason I can't actually explain. Well, I probably can if you gave me some time, but not now. I have found they've gotten braver in their attacks on the working class, and it's a big part of discourse now where they'll openly say to people, listen, you absolute common scum, your position in society is as a worker drone. You go to work for the benefit of your bosses, you go home, and when you can't do that, you need to drop dead and die because we hate you, we fucking despise you. You only exist to fill our pockets, and if you are not filling my pockets, you are not needed. You can fuck off to hell. I believe that's actually a speech done by Priti Patel at some point. That's been really evident in this whole get back to work idea to end work from home. And they're not saying go back to the office because they don't have an adequate explanation for why you should go to the office. Not really. There's absolutely no reason why a lot of jobs who can work from home shouldn't work from home, to be honest. The only reason they want us to do that is to continue to pay rent on offices, essentially, and to obviously increase the authoritarianism of management over their workers. But even so, their disdain is not really that well hidden anymore. They're not even trying, I don't think. And then this happens. So let's just let it play out. It's from GB News? No, sorry, Good Morning Britain, sorry. Which I'm afraid might be getting cancelled, turns out. We haven't really done many videos, but it's formerly the show where Piers Morgan was always hosting. And it was always interesting then. I would have loved to do more Piers Morgan videos. But oh well. But let's just see where this goes. And it's going to be an interesting one.
Turn your back on retirement and get back to work. That's what former Business Secretary Sir Vince Cable is telling the fittest of retirees to do.
Yeah, he suggested we should get the elderly back into jobs to tackle budget deficits and public debt. Do you agree? We've been finding out.
I've earned my right to retirement. I'm 71. And, you know, how long does he want us to work for? Don't we deserve to have a few years off? No.
Just for the sake of fairness, Vince Cable is not a Tory. He is a Liberal Democrat. He was in government with the Tories during the coalition years, where basically the Tories did what they wanted anyway, with a few exceptions. And Nick Clegg, the leader at the time, basically sold down the manifesto that he got elected on, or at least won a huge vote share from, in order to try and secure a voting reform referendum, which was then subsequently absolutely destroyed through propaganda. So it wasn't really worth the risk. I can see what he was trying to do, but it wasn't worth the risk in the end. I imagine if he just sort of went into a coalition with Labour, that would have been better. But there's probably a reason he didn't do that. But anyway, any case, so in fairness, it's not a Tory, but 100% the Tories would be in favour of this. And as that person said, how long does he want us to work for? The answer is until you die, because that's when you are adding to the economy, and when you are retired, you're no longer adding to the economy. Well, not in the way they want you to. So you may as well just die, because otherwise they're just going to have to look after you. And they'd rather not do that. They'd rather you just die, because you're no longer filling their pockets. That's the logic. It's essentially what they're saying.
No, I won't, because I'm tired and I feel tired already.
Yes, if some lovely project came my way, I would love to go back to work.
You worked hard enough, you've earned your pension. I left my job because of the pandemic, and I am saving the country money by not getting ill.
I don't mind going back to work. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm fit and healthy. I can do it. But apart from owing society money, we've paid in.
Yes. So there's a difference between someone wanting to go back to work, but I'll remind you, unless you work for a company that specifically said, all right, we're retiring you now. Retirement's optional. There's nothing stopping you going back to work if you want to. You can do that. There's no law to say that when you reach a certain age, you're not allowed to have another job. Doesn't exist. There are pensioners who are currently working because, unfortunately, poverty. And that's a symptom of a terrible government anyway, but some will actually prefer to work. And that's fair, that's their choice. But there's a difference between going to work because it's a personal choice and going to work because you're being forced to do so, which is what this law they're talking about, or this kind of pressure. Because it's not a law, it's saying, oh, you should, it's your duty to go back to work. It fucking isn't. It's no one's duty to go to work. You work for your own benefit, right? You work so you can make a living. No one works for free. If you won the lottery, say, and you had enough money to survive on without working, the vast majority of people would not go to work because they've achieved their goal of having an income. They have enough money there to survive on. They have no reason to work anymore. The only reason to go to work at that point is to fill your time, which you could do in any way, shape or form if you have the money or the means to do so, which is what Tories kind of do and the rich can do. Or if you want to hoard more wealth, which is also what the rich people currently do. Until they get to the point where they don't need to hoard wealth anymore, or the wealth hoards itself. But yeah, this idea that pensioners should or have the duty to return to work, it's bollocks. It's total bollocks, and it's an example of attack on working class people.
Well, there you go. So what do you think? Should retirees be sent back?
Just the language.
Into
Get
the
the elderly back to work.
Former Apprentice contestant Ryan Mark Parsons, who thinks anyone who can work should, and journalists.
The phrasing, anyone who can work should. Not anyone who can work should have the option of going back to work. Not that. It's anyone who can work should. Full stop. If you are able-bodied, it is your duty in society to go work until you're no longer able-bodied. You go break your back. You spend all your healthy years making money for your employer and for the government, and then when you're ready to retire, you can just fuck off and die. That's what that person actually believes.
Nina Mishkov, who says older people have earned the right to retire and shouldn't be forced to continue. Now, Nina, I'm not sure you're a good example of that argument because you are older, let's put it that way, and I'm
75.
You're 75, there you go, and you still do lots and lots of work. So
by choice. By her own choice.
you are somebody who's fit and does enjoy working.
It's true. I'm very, very lucky. I'm capable of working, and I'm very lucky that I have the sort of job that I enjoy doing, and that I can continue to do, and I will continue to do that until I drop, which I'm sure will annoy a lot of people. But there you go. The problem is saying to people, you know, you're fit and healthy, you're over 66, get back to work. That's just not right. People have earned the right. People have earned the right to put their feet up, do whatever they want. But the idea that older people are sitting by their second home swilling champagne is far from the truth. You know, the economy would absolutely collapse if older people stopped doing the unpaid job that they are doing, which is babysitting. If they stopped doing this unpaid job, then the entire economy would collapse.
That's very true. That's very true, isn't it, Ryan Mark Parsons?
It's an interesting point, actually. I never really thought about it like that. But at the same time, the narrative here, the way it's framed, is wrong for me. It's not you've worked for 60 years, you've earned retirement now. That's not the case at all. It's you shouldn't work if you don't want to. Essentially, that's what I believe. If you should work to make a living. Essentially, if you get to the point where you have done all you need to do, you no longer need to make a living, then you should have the option not to work anymore. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. Liberty is being able to act for your own self. Essentially, that's what liberty is. So you should work for fulfillment. It shouldn't have to be work. Shouldn't be something you do for duty of society until such a time as they grant you freedom from it. That's disgusting, to be honest. I'm interested to see what this guy does. What he actually has to say. He looks like a tosser. I think I remember him from The Apprentice. Actually, I don't know. We'll see what he says. But yeah, I'm against this entire framing so far.
We all know about granny daycare. Grandparents all over the world are picking up the slack of mums and dads who have to work longer and can't be at home in the way that perhaps people did in the past.
It's interesting because that itself is a symptom of a really bad economic environment, like a really bad culture in the economy that's relied on. Childcare should be provided. Like, elderly people shouldn't be relied on, retirees shouldn't be relied on for free childcare. That's also despicable. Now, not saying grandparents shouldn't spend time with their grandkids. Of course they should, if that's what's desired. Yeah, of course. But this idea that grandparents do this unpaid childcare work and they're being relied upon is disgusting. No, wrong. Absolutely wrong. They shouldn't be relied upon that. Childcare should be available to people who need it.
Or aren't able to be around as much. And not only that, very often older people who've retired are carers for partners and other members in the family. And beyond that, have worked very hard, paid their taxes in all sorts of different roles in jobs, and have perhaps earned the retire to take care of themselves and look after their health and pace themselves a little bit more in retirement.
Well, you know what? I think it's a great thing that the elderly are getting into work, whether that is caring, if they are looking after family members, etc. But I think there's also an opportunity for the elderly, if you're over a certain age, over 60. I'm 21. I'm a long time away from being that old. But I can say that if you are that age, you could not only be a carer, but you could be a freelance business person. You could be a delivery man or woman. There's loads of opportunities out there for the elderly to get up and switch off Coronation Street, the catch up on ITV Hub, and get out and work. That's what I would say.
The whole go back to work thing when it came to working from home was always framed in such a way of turn off that TV, stop day drinking, and get back to work. I am at work, mate. I'm working from home. This idea that if you're retired or you're working from home, you are somehow lazy or you're not being productive. It's bollocks. It's total bollocks. Not just morally bollocks. I mean, it's actually made up. It's total bollocks. Evidently, productivity over COVID went up. So people working from home worked harder and were more productive in that environment than if they were in the office. So isn't that more important than being in the office? You'd think so, if you care about productivity. But they don't care about productivity. They care about control, and they care about money. Productivity leads to money, incidentally, but not for landlords if you're working from home. Where's that money going? So that's your big issue if you're a Tory. How can we make it so this unarguably beneficial environment for workers' mental health and physical health as well, how can we make it seem like a bad thing? Well, why don't we just paint them as they are being lazy? That's what he's basically doing here. He's saying elderly people who have reached retirement age and have not got a job, they're lazy fuckers, they may as well just be shot because they're pointless. And it's despicable. This guy's an arsehole.
And in terms of generating money for the economy, get a job that pays and help boost what we're dealing with at the moment in terms of the UK economy, where more and more elderly could be getting into employment, whether that's staying in a job that they already have or going back to work, learning a new skill, and reducing that inflation that Vince Cable was talking about in his article and the public deficit.
Nina.
So what this is as well is a response to the problems, not with the economy, but with working conditions at the moment, where lots of people now are saying, fuck this job, the wage sucks, I am not a fucking worker drone. And there's a very easy solution to that. Improve working conditions. Improve wages, because you have the capacity to do it. And don't give me some bollocks about how you don't have the capacity to do it. You 100% do. I've seen your profit margins, arseholes. You can afford to pay people more. But instead of paying people more, they want to paint it as, oh, everyone's lazy because they're not working for an insignificant wage for my benefit. And that's all he's basically doing this for. The argument for all people trying to work is purely because what he would rather is there's more worker drones available who need to rely on a lower wage and will take a low wage job. He wants to increase that number of people that rely on that poverty wage system, because that's more profitable than fixing that issue of wage problems and increasing the wages. Of course it is. They'd rather just openly tell us, right, we're not going to fix your wages or anything. What we're going to do is just make it so more people are forced into those jobs. What this guy would opt for, if he probably won't say it outright. We'll see. I imagine some Tories would say it outright, is removing social care or removing pension schemes for people who can work and don't work, thus forcing them into work. Which, once again, is fucking disgusting. This guy's a cunt.
Nina, come on. They can go out and be delivery drivers. And look, we've got ITV hubs. They're not going to miss Coronation Street, says
exactly.
Ryan.
The idea that people are lying on the sofa watching telly is outrageous. And you know, delivery drivers, HGV drivers, you know, farm workers picking, you know, let's see where are there gaps in the economy? HGV drivers, farm workers, etc., etc. That's carers. They're doing that already. And the basic principle is also people who have paid in over all these years have earned the right. If they want to lie on the sofa watching Coronation Street, I wouldn't advise it, because you need to keep yourself healthy and move around, you know, as well as watching telly. You know, it's just outrageous that having paid in all this money, and having paid in all this money, you should be able to reap the benefits. That's what it's for. I have been paying taxes for 55 years. You know, how long have you been paying taxes for? Is it 2 years? You know, you've been the youngest person in the Apprentice, but you've been paying taxes for how long? 2 years?
Nina, you're making excuses for elderly being lazy. Let me tell you.
I'm not being.
He's just openly said it.
Let me tell you this.
Lazy.
Conducted this
Define
year.
lazy.
900,000 elderly people over the age of 60 returned to work as a result of the pandemic. And 1 in 10 of over 70s, if they return to work or if they get a new job, they would generate around £1.8 billion for the economy. So do you not see that as a good thing? Or do you want the elderly to be strolling around Brighton
No,
Beach?
I think.
When he says this much money for the economy, he's trying to phrase that like that's like really good and we'd all be better off because of it. Certain people would be better off for it. You and I probably won't. The elderly probably won't. They're essentially slave labour at that point. He wants the Tories' issue whenever they talk about the economy is that what they mean is the finances of the top few. That's what they're concerned about. Productivity went up. I've mentioned this. The only reason why certain people lost a bit of money at the top is because of rent. They lost office rent, for example. Ultimately, their issue is control. They rather would not have people who could be working at low wages have the option to skip that. That's his real concern. And he keeps saying lazy, because that's that's what they need to paint it as. They think of working class people as people that should exist only to work and make money for their employer. And if they're not doing that, they are surplus to requirement. They're a blight on the country. That's not how they just want to frame it and get other people to believe. Well, it is, but also it's what they genuinely believe. That's genuinely how they see us.
I think if people can find a job, if they can do a job, then that's absolutely fine, and that is their choice. But the point being, it is not something that should be forced upon them. If they have paid in for all these years, they have earned the right to take back from the system. Explain to me how many years. Tell me how many years you've been paying in taxes.
Well, I've been working since the age of 16, so I'm now 21.
How long have you been paying taxes for?
Well, since the age of 16 when I had a job.
So 5 years.
Now?
He's 21.
I'm 21.
So 5 years. So
Yes.
set that against 55 years, 40 years of national insurance. I have helped to support the older generation. I have helped to support the middle generation. I am now supporting you. We are a society. We all help each other.
Okay,
and to say that older people are lazy is absolutely outrageous.
It's your generation that is heavily reliant upon expansive healthcare services, which is costly. And if you're not contributing to any tax, pressure on
I am contributing personally.
This guy's a twat. What he's suggesting, once again, I'm sorry for repeating myself, what he's actually suggesting is if you are not making money for your employer, you may as well die. You only exist to make money for your employer. It's fucking disgusting how people on the right can just openly say this and they're not being lynched, to be honest. Like, there should be... What happened to that element of fear that when you talk down to the majority of the population and you tell them they are just minions and they mean fuck all, where's the fear that they will just turn against you and get rid of you? It's a shame that we've lost that. And it's being lost because of apathy, it's being lost because of working class Tories who have fell for propaganda and scapegoating, essentially. There's 100% working class people watching this agreeing with this little twat. And it's disgusting. It really is disgusting.
And the reason you pay in... I'm sorry, I cannot hear a word you're saying.
All right, let Mark finish, Nina. Just pause for a second. Sorry, Mark, what was your point? We lost you there. Mark. Say again.
Right, I was saying that the young people have a lot of pressure. Okay, Nina can try and demonize me and patronize me for not paying taxes as long as her. Well, she's a lot older. Of course, she's going to she's had more time to pay taxes. But what I'm saying is there's a lot of pressure on young people like me to fork the bill for the expansive healthcare services that the elderly require. There's a higher dependency. And if they're not working, they're not paying national insurance, it's on the younger people to fork the bill when there's squeezing when it comes to school and college budgets.
So the problem is, though, right, Mark, is what Nina would say is she forked the bill for the people older than her, and there will be another generation forking the bill for you.
You know what, Kate? I think it's a case, as I said earlier, of laziness. Look at the Queen. She's 95 years old. She gets up, she goes to work, and she does so
bad timing that, mate, to be honest.
much for this country. I can even speak about Lord Sugar. He's 74. And he...
Fucking, of course he's going to fucking brown-nosed Lord Sugar. The Queen doesn't work. No, fuck off. That's not work. I don't care. It's not work. You go on little tours and stuff, and she's not. And even if you class that as work, she's not doing that at the moment because, fully enough, she's old. He's got nothing because he keeps going back to the laziness argument, and once again, he's just showing his hand that he just fucking hates this idea of plebs who don't work to make their employers money. And what it's about is self-perseverance as well. He is one of these fucking arsehole, selfish cunts who, in his head, what he wants to do is retire at 40. And he wants to hoard wealth. He probably wants to... I'm going to have to look up what he actually does. If he brown noses Alan Sugar, I can probably guess. But he wants to hoard wealth. He wants to basically get to the point where he probably owns a shit ton of property and he can make money as a slumlord. That's what I'm guessing he wants to do. And so at a certain point, when he hits at age like 40, he can essentially retire and no longer work, and he gets to reap the benefits of these silly cunts in his head who do have to go and work, and he'll be the one who got through that system. But he needs to make sure that he's one of the only ones who does that, and he pulls the ladder up. In this case, what he's sort of seeing is, see all these potential worker drones here of this age range who have retired and not working anymore. They could be working for my benefit here, and I get more money. Let's make them. Let's make them do that. What I'll do is I'll accuse them of being lazy, and if you ever get in a position of influence policy, I'll actually make it so they're forced into work. Yeah, I'm going to do that, and then I get to hoard all the wealth, and then I'm sorted. I can't. When the guillotines come out, that'll be class.
I think comparisons to the Queen, right, Mark, are a bit different. I mean, she's quite reasonably wealthy compared to a lot of other people. But can I just ask something? You're now 21. Are you saying, right, Mark, that you are prepared to work into your 80s, and retirement should be not even an option for your generation? So you will continue working for another 65 years, and you'll never be able to retire and enjoy any sort of pleasure of retirement. Is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying. I'm going to work until I drop. I think it's a really good attitude and working mentality to just have the sort of resilience to get up in the morning, put your boots on, go to work. And I'd love to see more grannies on the tube.
You've never worn boots in your life. Not worker boots.
Hang on a minute. That's a very
But he doesn't genuinely believe that, by the way. I'm 100% sure he doesn't believe that. But people who do believe that, they're bootlickers and cooks. They are absolute travesty of humans, and they need to all fuck off. Yeah, this guy's an asshole. I'd shit him.
That's just a very responsible attitude to say
It's
you'll
not,
keep
though, is
on
it?
working, and that's absolutely fine. I have kept on working, and I'll continue to do so. But I defend to the death the right of people who have paid into the system to stop at the age of retirement. Otherwise, why do we have a retirement age? The thing is, you are 21. You're a grown-up boy. You take responsibility. Stop whining about the older generation. Take responsibility. Live your life. Earn your money. Pay in for the rest of us, and we'll pay in for you. We will continue to do so when we can. But it does just not fit right for you to say that the older generation are lazy.
Okay.
That is absolutely an insult I will not take.
All right. Well,
just because they've earned the right to stop working at the official age of 66.
Okay,
What's
well,
wrong
look,
with
I
that?
tell you what, Nina and Ryan Mark, you've sparked a debate for us this morning. Very interesting to hear your different points of view. Good to talk to both of you. We've already had people commenting.
So there's a big issue for me of just the retirement age in general, of how that keeps getting pushed back. And it's very likely that my generation is probably going to... Most of us will die before we reach retirement, I think. I can predict what's the retirement age at the moment. I'll put it up on screen or something. But I can predict by the time I reach retirement age, I'll probably be in my 80s. I reckon, and I don't know if I'd survive past 80. I might do. I don't know how advanced medical is, but I've been through a lot of shit, and I've put my body through a lot, so I just can't imagine it. And this idea that the Tories are looking at me and people like me and going, we want to make sure that your entire life is spent making money for other people and that you'll never get to enjoy your own liberty. And we're perfectly happy for you to die perfectly happy to work until you die is disgusting. And once again, it shows the complete contempt they have for the working class. And it's why we need to actually elect people who push for liberty.
Haven't we?
Yeah,
Are you kidding? And this is a woman after my own heart, says Sarah. Forced to work after retirement, I'm shattered at 59. I think that's how a lot of people feel, don't they?
Exactly.
And they
a
shouldn't.
lot of people saying this. Kale on email, it's not the elderly that needs to work, it's our young generation that need to get off gadgets and get out and work.
That's
that was
fucking
Nina
stupid
Miscott, by the
anyway,
way.
so... Well, Yeah, so there's going to be some sort of generation divide here. Why don't the working class stick together? I don't know. We're all working class, doesn't matter our ages. There is a problem, I think, with that whole narrative and this whole idea of young people. There is a thing where older people are a bit out of touch with how work works, and they don't realise how bad young people have it now. Just in terms of just economic problems, the cost of a house against the cost of the average wage is completely alien to older people now. They would never have survived in that situation either, and it's currently younger people who are really struggling to survive on that. And unless things get better in that regard, you are basically returning to sort of Victorian style working conditions. I mean, look at Amazon. I mean,